Good day, everyone, and welcome to the News Chronicle. My name is Pius Kadon, and I want to welcome you to Political Clinic. Political Clinic is a program that dissects political happenings in our country, Nigeria, and of course, we get to talk with political analysts to put us around the news and of course share some insight concerning what is happening in the polity. On today's edition of the program, we're going to be talking about something that has been on the political space, and I'm talking about the gathering of major political forces at the Social Democratic Party Secretariat here in Abuja, where we had the likes of Show Me of the PDP, Al Mustafa. We had, of course, the SDP National Chairman talking about Mr. Shehu Gaban, and the big one talking about former governor of Kaduna State, Nasir El-Rufai. His presence there has stirred a lot of reactions. And then part of those that reacted is the governor of Nasarawa State, who said that there is no need for the APC to panic, or there is no need for any APC loyalists to panic as to whether Nasir El-Rufai has left the APC. According to him, Nasir El-Rufai is still with the ruling party. But a lot of people, are thinking that when you have these people come together, you should know that there's something cooking. Of course, Mr. Shawmi said the meeting has a lot to do with just finding an alternative for what has been happening in the country. And the SDP national chairman used a particular word where he said that what they just went there to discuss was a way of aligning, creating an alliance amongst the opposition forces and all. But he extended his comments by saying that the umbrella can no longer cover and the broom can no longer sweep. So, you should know what that means. But then in time to come, we get to know where the pendulum is going to swing to. Here with me to discuss this and even more is Dr. Alikali Abubakar, who is a political commentator and a public policy analyst.
Yeah, it's a delight to have you here.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
All right, let's start it this way. I'm sure that over there you must have been following political trends in the country. And one of those trends that, have gotten people talking is the gathering of political forces or even political gladiators at the Social Democratic Parties and Secretariat here in Abuja. A lot of people seem to have, shared decent opinion as to why we saw the former governor of Kaduna State talking about Mr. Nasir El-Rufai in the mix. And then that got a lot of people talking. Do you think there is something that is coming for the APC?
Yes, thank you very much again. Obviously, in Nigeria, the political the period of politicking is almost all year round. It's not just close to election or during election. It's all year round. It's not surprising to see political gladiators, across boards, across the different political parties, coming together to strategize towards the election. Seeing the SDP and some political heavyweights, coming together, to meet and strategize is not really surprising. Also seeing, some of the political forces in the League of Northern Democrats, led by Ibrahim Shekarau, former Kano State Governor, also coming together, to strategize is not really surprising. This is expected. The stakes are very high, actually. The stakes are very, very, very high. It is also normal because when you have an incumbent seeking a re-election, sometimes the stakes are even higher, than even when you have a clear playing ground, when the incumbent has done his 2 terms, maybe less pressure on the party. But when you have a party trying to secure a second term, the stakes are very high. And also, the fact that in Nigeria today, there is so much, quite honestly, anger.
I was coming to that, Doctor.
Yes. Okay. so
Yes.
Obviously, it's not surprising to me, honestly. I actually expect more to come, from the opposition. I expect more to come from the opposition. I expect more alliance of forces. I expect more, more meetings, more horse trading, more discussions, more negotiations.
But another thing that some Nigerians are concerned about is the fact that these opposition forces have not really come out to tell us that, okay, we're having a merger. We heard the national chairman of the SDP say that it was some sort of alliance, and then Showomi of the PDP said it was some sort of alternative that they are looking for. Is it that they are trying to, put up these phrases to hide the main thing that is up for the ruling or progressive Congress in the coming months? Because, like it or not, this is like a year that is going to be full of politicking, considering the fact that by next year we should be gearing towards the primaries. So we haven't really heard them say, okay, we're coming for a merger or something. So
again, in politics it is normal. It is a strategy. In strategies, you don't really bring out all your methods. In strategies, you always try to be as confidential as possible until a time when you have to come the whole hog. Especially in developing democracies. Unfortunately, we still call Nigeria a developing democracy. In developing democracies, where the uncertainty is very high, where the incumbent has almost all the powers you can imagine. Okay, where the incumbent can decide, to destabilize your plans. He has all the weapons. The president in Nigeria, I would say, is arguably the most powerful president in the world. He has all the arsenal. So when you come out with your plans, yes, the incumbent, the party in power is also not sleeping. As a matter of fact, the party in power is also strategizing. It's strategizing so much against the opposition, because you have this allegation now, not even an allegation, I think it is true, that the incumbent, the party in power, the All Progressives Congress, is actually trying to destabilize the opposition. Okay, this also in a way is normal. It's politics. They are trying to come into the opposition political parties, the PDP, the crisis in the PDP, the crisis over the leadership, the tenure of the national chairman. All these are alleged to be sponsored by the APC. The crisis.
But then again, sorry for chipping in. But then again, if you look at the crisis that has, been going on across the opposition parties, you begin to wonder what kind of merger we're going to have at the end of the day. Because even the likes of APC, for example, PDP, for example, their house is not in order. And then if you look at the Labour Party, same thing is happening. And then if you look at the NNPP, same thing is happening. So what sort of opposition are we going to have at the end of the day if they merge to combat the ruling of Progressive Congress? What sort of opposition are we going to have?
Absolutely. You are very right. Just like I was saying, the fact is that the opposition is currently in disarray in Nigeria. That is a fact. And this disorganization, this instability in the leadership of the opposition parties is actually linked to the APC. The APC is using mods within these parties to destabilize them. As a matter of fact, in the Labour Party, the allegation is that, which I actually feel myself, is that the APC is trying to actually deny the Labour Party a candidate, okay, in the first place, okay? And for the PDP, the APC is trying to say, okay, a particular candidate who obviously is the most popular should not be given the ticket. The APC is trying to plant their own candidates within the opposition parties in the election. That is a fact.
That's an allegation anyway.
Okay, that's an allegation. That's an allegation. Okay, thank you. That's an allegation. The APC is trying to say, look, it's trying to strategize to ensure that its own candidates fly the flags of these opposition parties in the presidential election. And you see, maybe as we go along, you see that it is no longer an allegation. Okay, you see that it is coming. So the fact is, even if we have this kind of confusion at this moment, we're having this confusion. There is no doubt about that within the opposition. It doesn't actually mean that we are not going to have a coalition of the opposition. It's still possible. Okay, it's still possible. As a matter of fact, you naturally expect this to happen now, because there is disagreements at the beginning. Before a merger, there are always disagreements. How did APC came about? Okay, APC actually was to birth in the 2011 elections, but it
was also a product of merger.
Oh no, so it's a product of merger. So the fact that we have these problems now does not mean that we are not going to have a merger. We may still have a merger, but I tell you, the APC, the government in power, is still doing everything possible to ensure that this merger does not happen. If we have the merger, if we have a realistic merger of the opposition in the 2027 presidential elections, then I tell you, the APC will 90% lose the election. That's what I feel. If the opposition can come together, the APC will lose the election.
Well, let's see how it goes, because we still have more time, and then who knows if the present administration is going to put talking about President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who knows, maybe this is going to ginger him and help him put his house in order and put his acts together, and maybe buy the hearts of Nigerians before 2027. It's never too late or too early.
I agree with you.
He still have the time to prove himself.
You see, we have a situation where I'm saying all this based on maybe the assumption that we are operating a normal democracy, in a normal setting, democratic setting. Our democracy, our electoral process is not normal. That is a fact. Okay, when you have abnormal setting, and abnormal democracy, abnormal electoral process, then anything can happen. Okay, anything can happen. And at the end of the day, you see, I think the most important thing should be the welfare of the people. Okay, I think the most important thing should be Nigeria. I think the most important thing should be how we can create jobs, how Nigeria can create jobs, how Nigeria can develop its economy. But the problem with our democracy is that everything is tied to personal interest. Okay, over and above the national interest. So that is where the issue is. All these arguments are fine in a political setting. All the confusion, as it were, are fine in a democratic setting. But at the end of the day, we should target the national interest. You see, if we are operating a normal democracy, the opposition always, this is all over the world. This is what happens. The opposition comes together. Okay, in Senegal, okay, in Ghana, in sister African countries, the opposition comes together. You cannot unseat an incumbent when you are divided. it doesn't work. The opposition has to come together. You see, one of the greatest issues with the coming together of the opposition in Nigeria today is about who takes the ticket of the PDP. One candidate will say, "No, I'm too big to be a vice president." The other candidate will say, "No, I'm too big to be a vice president." You see, so this is the problem. There has to be sacrifice. There has to be sacrifice. You have to make that sacrifice for the country, okay? For you to be able to achieve that victory. If the opposition can come together, and if people can, the gladiators can now make this sacrifice to say, okay, look, I am giving out my ambition. I am dropping my ambition for the other person, for these people. Okay, then that's fine. Okay, I know it might not be me today, but it could be me tomorrow. If the opposition can do that, definitely there will be that success that the opposition is looking at.
All right, talking about if it's not me today, it could be me tomorrow. Let's also look at the zoning pattern. A lot of people will say that if these opposition forces are coming and then at the end of the day they fly the ticket to the northern part of Nigeria, it's going to be unfair to the southern part. I'm just imagining if this opposition will collapse together and become a single political party, are they really going to produce or give their ticket, the presidential ticket, to zone it to the north? If they are going to really zone it to the north, do you see any impact, any voting impact, so to speak, that such ticket is going to make on the electorate?
Well, yes. To answer your question directly, is going to make an impact. But I want to set some records straight here, which is that, okay, zoning is a party affair. It is not a national affair. Okay? What do I mean by this? Now, the party, in each constitution of the party, you find out that the party will say, look, we are zoning this ticket to this part of the country or to this part of the state. Okay? To give us that comparative advantage in the election. Okay? But then it is never a national policy. It is not in the constitution to say the presidency must rotate between the north and the south, or the south must take 8 years, as it were, or the south must take 4 years, or the north must take 8 years, or the north must take 4 years. It's not in the constitution.
But then again, Doctor, that was a particular card that the former president, talking about Muhammadu Buhari, played before coming to power, talking about the zoning card. That it was the turn of the north.
Well, I don't think that was exactly so, to be honest with you. Whatever it is, regardless, I think for our democracy to grow, we must jettison zoning. We must jettison rotational presidency. That is a fact. It means if you are the best candidate, if you are the one that have the ideas, that have the passion, that have the wisdom, that have the commitment, you will not get there because you are not from that zone. Or tell me which country, which advanced democracy in the world rotates its presidency. Tell me. These are all indications of the the kind of democracy that Nigeria operates, the kind of kindergarten democracy that Nigeria operates. How can you say, okay, how can you mortgage your future, the future of your children to zoning? Which means if you don't have the right candidate from that zone, what are we seeing today? What has zoning done to Nigeria? What has it? To say, okay, it has to go to the north. Okay, it has gone to the north. What have we seen? 8 wasted years. What are we seeing today?
But it gives some people a sense of belonging.
Has gone 1,000% zoning. No. Look, if we are operating democracy, There is nowhere in the Constitution, which is the overriding law of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, there is nowhere, no line, no section, which says the presidency shall rotate between the North and the South. Nowhere. Please show me that section. Then you now bring in zoning every time since 1999. We are bringing zoning. It has to go to. This confusion. This is.
But then, Doctor, this is to give some people a sense of belonging. Let's put in perspective. The Southeast, for example, have never produced a president since the birth of democracy in this country, like since 1999.
Well, let me tell you the fact. Yes, Southeast have not produced. Not Central has not produced. Okay. South has not produced. South has produced.
South produced.
Yeah. Okay. But then we have 2 or 3 other. But let me tell you the fact. As I see it, zoning is not sustainable. Rotational presidency in Nigeria is not sustainable. It cannot stand. It is not the way to go. It is not the way to go. Any which way you look at it, sense of belonging. What sense of belonging are you looking at in a democracy? What sense of belonging I'm looking at is food on my table, jobs. Tell me, the development template of Nigeria today, it's all about consumption. Okay, and we are tying the presidency to tradition, to culture, to this part, to that part, to section. The development template of Nigeria today is all about consumption. Okay, there is no production. The economy is down. There are no jobs. Tell me how many Nigerian leaders who speak mention jobs. They don't mention jobs. They only mention power grab, how to grab power and misuse it. Nobody talks about jobs. Nobody talks about production. Nobody talks about factories. That is why you see a governor now, he prioritizes flyover, building flyover, erecting flyovers all over the place when people are hungry. There are no jobs, and he has gold. He has tomato. He can actually build a tomato paste factory. Okay, he can build a muscle. That is why the National Assembly prioritizes purchase of SUVs, special utility vehicles, every year. They change it, and they don't expire. These cars don't expire, but they change them every year. Okay, over and above building factories so that people can have jobs. Let me tell you, to build one factory that can employ 100 people is better than buying an SUV and giving to a public office holder to use, which he actually has anyway. A lot of them has more than 10 cars. They have cars that I've been to. Look, I know what I'm saying. Okay, a lot of them have cars they cannot even count. So build factories. That is what I'm talking about when I said development template of Nigeria. It has to change from just collecting money and buying cars and electing flyovers, okay, and paying for travels, paying escorts, okay, to building factories. Yes, some of them will tell you, Dr. Ali said, build factories. Okay, I've been saying this is not the first time, build factories. But then it's not the prerogative, it's not the responsibility of the government to build factories. That's what they will say. Okay, then it is your responsibility to eat money. We have seen public office holders accused of taking 100 billion naira. Okay, it is our responsibility to take money, but it's not our responsibility to build factories. Now, in any case, you can build a factory and transfer this factory to the private sector. Sell it to the private sector. The private sector is not going to take that factory away. This is the basis of the current insecurity that we're having, the current youth restlessness that we're having, the current level of, hopelessness that we're having. There are no factories, no jobs. People go to school and they come out and they look for jobs for about 10 years.
And that is probably because we are not generating enough revenue to help us fund some of this project. And then if you look at what the current president is doing, could you say that we're on the right track? And then Nigerians at some point need to pay, need to sacrifice for some of these policies. The tax reform bill is on the other hand, and then the removal of fuel subsidy is on the other hand. And then I think these are ways of trying to say, okay, hey, Nigerians, this is the time for us to look at other ways of generating revenue instead of just consuming. Because if you are talking about building factories, there is no how you can achieve some of these things without adequate revenue. So maybe the president is saying, hey, I know all of these things. I know that these are some of the things that are going to drive development, but then you have to, at some point, do some sort of sacrifice for us to get there.
Well, I can tell you that there is revenue to do some of these things. There are revenues to build factories, but that is not the focus of government. That is why you don't see them. This is the reality. That is why you don't see them, because that isn't on your priority. Then you focus. Okay, that's not the priority of government. Okay, where did you get the money to buy SUVs all over the place? When you move out, do you move out of your office and travel for 15 minutes without seeing 2 or 3 convoys of SUVs? Where did you get the money to? Where did you get money? The over 200 billion. 250, 300 billion for the National Assembly. Where did you get the money? In a state, you find the governor erecting a flyover worth 15, 20 billion, one flyover. Where did you get that money? Where did you get money?
Doctor, I don't know, is building roads not part of the development?
No, it is. What other, it is. It is.
Yeah,
don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but you see,
then it's not the right priority for you.
Scale of preference. You cannot make people hungry, and you are building flyovers. These roads, they don't even construct new roads. They renovate them. Potholes, they call them, and the roads are still there. Okay, so you have to prioritize. Look, for how many years now since independence? Every election period, every election cycle, someone comes to tell Nigerians, I'm providing electricity for you. Have we had that electricity? Someone comes to say, I'm building roads. We are still building roads till now as we speak. They are doing potholes. Okay? Someone will come to say, I'm providing education. Look at the state of our schools. Okay? So let's change it. Let's change it. That's the only thing that will reduce this level of poverty, which is about 85% in Nigeria today. People are literally dropping dead on streets because they cannot feed. Now, coming to the policies you are talking about, the signature policies of the current administration. Fuel subsidy removal is wrong. And we have seen it. I don't need to say it. Everybody has seen the impact. Tell me the impact of fuel subsidy removal today. Tell me the revenue, even the revenue in the last 18, 19 months that it has been removed. Tell me, account for 1 kobo. Tell me where 1 kobo has gone to.
But build up to the 2023 election, all the major presidential candidates did say that they were going to remove subsidy. So if we are saying that President Bola Tinubu removed subsidy and then it's really not okay for us, if it were, for example, Peter Obi or Atiku in that seat, would have still had the same issue of fuel subsidy removal because they did promise that they were going to remove subsidy.
But look, my brother, it doesn't make it right. Even if Atiku had removed it, I would have challenged you. Look, let me tell you, in 2022, before the election, on the 10th of October 2022, I wrote a 116 pages report on how to remove on fuel subsidy. And in that report, I said, government must never remove subsidy. I actually predicted that removing subsidy could cause social unrest in Nigeria. What did we see today? What did we see today?
Maybe the process at which it was removed.
Excuse me. Thank you. In that report, I said fuel subsidy is not sustainable. I agree. It's not something that we have refineries we cannot do. But I said government must never remove these subsidies without fixing the refineries. I actually did a formula of removing subsidy in phases, in routines. I said in that formula, if you fix this refinery, if you fix the refineries to 10% capacity, okay, remove 10% subsidy. So I did a presentation on that. If you fix 20% of our refineries, remove 20% of subsidy. And so you have a guide, okay? You will cushion the effect. With all due respect, how could the president come on day one without assessment, without due diligence, and remove subsidy? I was at the inauguration on May 29 in Eagle Square. When subsidy was removed, it was 190, we were buying it. By the time I came back, I went to the filling station, I was buying it for 400 plus, about 420 naira. They increased it and they have all stock. That is why you needed an assessment. I would have expected the president, with his passion, okay, for development, to say, look, I'm taking 6 months to study. I'm setting up a high-powered committee. I'm putting 6 months to study subsidy regime. Okay? And remove it in phases in such a way that it will not affect families who are already struggling. What did we see today in Nigeria, where we are struggling to keep prices down, where there are costs, there are people, where the regulation capacity of the Nigerian government is very weak. We operate a very weak regulatory system. We have a very weak judiciary. So if you open up those spaces, what you end up having is overnight billionaires. Some few individuals will use the opportunity. That is what fuel subsidy has cost. That is what the devaluation of the naira has cost. People overnight billionaires.
We are pressing for time, even though some people will tell you that in the first place there was no need talking about the removal of subsidy. Instead, the president will have looked at the corruption that has subjected subsidy to ridicule.
Absolutely.
But then again,
remove corruption and leave subsidy, because subsidy for the people is the duty. The government cannot say because smugglers are taking the commodity out. It is the responsibility of government. It is your responsibility to secure the borders and ensure that people don't cross over, don't take our fuel. It is responsibility, and we have security agencies there. We have security operatives there. It is the responsibility of the government. It is actually an admission of failure, if you look at it.
Right.
Yes. Yeah, so that is the fact. You remove subsidy, you remove corruption, and leave subsidy, because subsidy, at the end of the day, will spike inflation, hyperinflation. That is what we have, and that is what I predicted in that report. And that is.
I really wish we had enough time, Doctor. I really wish we had enough time. Anyways, but then again, if you were to meet the president one more, maybe in 2-3 seconds, what would you tell him? If you were to meet him, what would you tell him about some of the policies?
Yeah, well, I will actually advise him to drop the tax reform. This is not the time for tax reform. Who are you taxing? If you say, okay, you and I, who earn maybe 20,000 naira or 30,000 naira, are not. No. We are covered, because the companies, the corporate tax you are increasing will come to us.
Definitely.
When you increase the corporate tax, the company will
it will trickle down to the common man
on the street. So I would advise my president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, to drop the idea of the tax reform bill completely. And also, I would actually advise him to change the development template of Nigeria. This budget system, this this copy and paste budgeting, that we just 300 million to Ministry of Transport, 500 to. At the end of the day, we don't see anything year in, year out. Change the development template to building factories. Liaise with the private sector, build these factories and sell them. I will also advise him to privatize the government-owned oil refineries as soon as possible.
All right,
okay?
Doctor, we just hope that the president is listening to you right now. Anyways, this is how much we can go. Everyone, I've been speaking with Dr. Abubakar Alkali, who is a public analyst and, of course, a political or a policy analyst, so to speak, and then a political analyst as well. Thank you, Doctor, for joining us all the way from the United Kingdom.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
All right, this is the much we can take on today's edition of the program. My name is Pius Kadon, urging you to join us for another interesting and informative edition of the show, Political Clinic.